Welcome back to the Team Leal Kitchen. It's Trudy. Today I'm making one of my favorites, my way. I'm not Irish and I don't claim to be, but I'm making dinner for Grandpa and I'm making shepherd's pie. It's something that we always do is spend Sundays at Grandpa's. We check in on him all the time and this was definitely a hit with him. For this meal, you will need potatoes, celery, onion, garlic, Beyond Meat ground beef, Beyond Meat brat sausage, Miyoko's oat butter, frozen peas and carrots, starch water, salt, parsley, paprika, and pepper. Let's get cooking. Vamos a cocinar. First things first, get your water ready to boil. So salt it liberally, that's what I do. And then a watch pot never boils, so just turn on your stove and cover that puppy up. Don't watch it. I probably should have started with chopping my potatoes for this video, but I started with my celery. I think I did this because I was wanting to use my knife. So let's talk about this knife that I'm using. I got this knife for Mother's Day, and the first time I used it, I cut my finger pretty bad. That cut scared me, and so I laid off of using the knife as much because I have horrible knife skills, I realized. And I love my chopper. My chopper's easy and cuts everything very uniformly, if that's even a word. But I digress. In my shepherd's pie, I don't like my celery and onion chopped very thickly, and that chopper does make big kind of chunks. So this time I am using my knife and practicing good knife skills so that I can get it diced very, very finely. And so after I dice it the first time, I'm gonna go over and over it until it gets really, really fine. At this point, I noticed that my water was getting kind of warm, so I started chopping up my potatoes. This is how my potatoes look when they're chopped. I chopped up a bunch of them. It's not about the size. Again, it's about uniformity. You want them to be cut around the same size so that they all soften at around the same time. The way that I managed to get this done is that I grab my potato and I'll chop it into like 3 lengthwise, and then I'll go across it and I'll go about 4 times across. The other half was a little bigger, so I just cut it more times lengthwise. Just eyeball it and make sure they're somewhat uniform. Now make sure to put your potatoes in when the water's not boiling, or else you're gonna burn the crud out of yourself. While the potatoes are boiling, get your onion. I use half an onion and I just split it down the side a little bit, and that's how I get that layer off so that it's not all slimy. Look at Toby washing dishes. Such a good husband. So you'll want to chop your onion in half, and then I chop it into slices. As you can tell, I'm super anxious. Like, I was holding that onion as though it might explode because I'm so nervous about using this super sharp knife. If I was using my chopper, I'd have already been done. But I will use this knife and I will learn to love it, and I will use good knife skills. That's the promise that I make to my family because they bought me this knife. So here I go. I chop it into smaller pieces, and then I literally will go over it over and over and over again until I've diced it up into a really nice, finely dice without chopping my fingers off. And voila, look, onion, celery, yay! So you'll take your celery and your onion. Oh my gosh, did I just like flick a bunch of onion out of my pan? Yes, I did. Hello, my name is Trudy, and I am not elegant in the way that I cook. So you will saute this until it gets almost softened. Move it around, keep it moving, and then get your garlic in when it's about to be softened. Notice I use big heaping teaspoons. I love garlic. I probably mentioned that before. And if you need to, you can add oil. I did not. My cast iron pan was really well seasoned and oiled already, but if you need to, you can add oil or water. I like water sauteing better, but you do you. So while you're mixing that up, you want to keep your eye on those potatoes. This is a multitasking kind of meal, as they usually are, so keep them both going or grab a kid and get them to help you. All right, at this point, you'll want to grab your Beyond Meat beef. I can't stop singing its praises. I love it. If you eat meat, go ahead and put your meat in. We don't. And I love Beyond Beef because It has no allergens for our Jackson, who has eosinophilic esophagitis, long name, crappy disorder. Poor kid can't hardly eat anything. So I'm grateful for this brand. And then I also put in some Beyond Meat sausage. I use 2 of them, and it's the brat kind, not the spicy. Again, we don't do spice, as I've said in prior videos. So this is a no judgment zone. You're going to stir your potatoes around, make sure they keep on going, and at the same time, you're going to want to still stir your meat. Now, for the Beyond Meat sausage, I just take off the casing. It literally has casing. It's crazy. I don't know what they do, what voodoo they do, but it's amazing. So they have this casing, and I just kind of remove it, and you'll have the casing left over and just throw it out. You'd think that this was like a sponsored video, but I only have like 40 something followers, and I love that I do. Thank you for following my channel, but it's not sponsored. All right, why? Okay, potatoes. Check your potatoes, and all you have to do is grab a couple spoonfuls and just double check if they're soft. And if they're uniformly soft, start separating them into your bowl. Do not drain them. Just keep that water. You're gonna need it for your potatoes, and just keep it, okay? Trust me. So once all your potatoes are in your bowl and your meat is going, you're gonna grab that Beyond Meat sausage that the casing is taken off of, and you're just gonna put that into the celery, onion, and Beyond Beef meat mixture. Just chop it up like you do the Beyond Meat, and you're good to go. Once it's warmed through, I literally turn off my heat and I focus on my potatoes. I do use a mixer for this, not a ricer. Since this meal does have texture in it and it's not just mashed potatoes, I just use a mixer. You'll notice it looks a little dry, and that's when I start adding my potato water. That's my starchy water. It's still hot, and that's why I told you to keep it on the stovetop. I end up using about a cup of starchy water for these potatoes. I was out of Oatly, and that's why I'm using starchy water instead. If you don't have any milk products or nut milk products, you can use starch water, and it's a great alternative for making mashed potatoes. Make sure that you're scraping down the sides of the bowl often, and as you can see, it doesn't look as dry anymore. Yay! And that's when I'll start adding all my other ingredients, like this delicious Miyoko's oat milk butter. Y'all, this is, oh my gosh, the most delicious butter. It's so, so good. You could eat it off a spoon. You shouldn't. That would be a bad life choice. Just saying. I start my mixer again after that, and then I'll add other things like my spices. So I do 1 teaspoon of salt in here, and I keep it mixing, and then I'll add my green onions. These green onions were so sad looking, but they worked. They're delicious. I love green onions in my mashed potatoes. I don't know what it is about them. I just love the smell and the flavor. So I mix those in, and as I mix it really quick, it warms it up, and you can just smell that green onion all over the house. It brings everybody down into the kitchen. While your potatoes are mixing, go ahead and get your oven started. I mean, turn it on, 350 degrees. Mine's in Celsius, but 350 degrees. At this point, I get my frozen peas and carrots out of the freezer. I'm using 16 ounces of frozen peas and carrots, and I start to prepare my thickener. So I'm using a couple of tablespoons of cold water, and I grab some cornstarch, and you're gonna use a teaspoon of cornstarch, and you're just gonna make a slurry with this. So just put it into your measuring cup and mix it up. Once that is all mixed up, you're gonna get some of your starchy water from your potatoes that's warm, and just get it into that same cup, and then pour that all over your meat mixture. And that's gonna kind of take all the liquid that we have in there and whatever comes out of those peas and carrots, and just allows it to thicken up. And that's why we're using it. Okay, let's get our spices in. I put in salt, and for salt, I'm only using half a teaspoon of salt. I'm getting so much better at not over salting my stuff. Proud of me. Yay. Then you'll use some parsley. A lot of recipes call for rosemary. I have a deep-seated aversion to rosemary. I think it's gross. I don't like it at all. It's like sticks in your food. 2 teaspoons of parsley should do it. and then add some paprika. I love paprika, it adds a smokiness, and I add 1 teaspoon of paprika. And finally, just like a pinch, a sprinkle of pepper. So you'll just mix all of that up until you smell the flavors in your kitchen, and that'll let you know that it's time to move on in the cooking process. So I just kind of mix it around. You'll add all of your peas and carrots, the entire 16-ounce package, and you mix it up. You'll want them to release all their moisture, and again, you put that slurry in so it'll thicken it up, and you just kind of stir it around to warm it through. Remember, we're gonna put this in the oven, so you don't have to get them completely soft. You just have to get them with the moisture out of them. And in the end, once it's all mixed up, it'll look like this. And this is literally what you're putting in the oven. We're not switching it to another container, which is why I started with my cast iron pan. Then you will grab your mashed potatoes, and I scoop it out and I scrape it onto the side of my cast iron pan. I've tried to put it into the middle of the pan, and it's always a huge disaster. So the best way to top something when you're cooking it is to top it on the edges and then gently scrape that topping over everything. Same thing with my crumbles or anything I cook. I always start at the edges, and then I'm really gentle as I cover everything up. So once everything is covered up, I make sure that my edges look really good. I don't want there to be a lot of stray potatoes on the edges because then it burns. And in the end, it looks like this. Beautiful. I'm going to cover this with aluminum foil. It did take me 2 pieces of aluminum foil because it's a pretty big cast iron pan. And then remember, you had your oven preheating at 350. Mine was 176 Celsius. And you're just gonna pop that into your oven for 30 minutes. Once it's been in there for 30 minutes, you'll wanna turn it to broil. Mine's at 260 Celsius, yours will say 500 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll put it in there uncovered for 5 minutes. Okay, after 5 minutes are up, you will take it out of your oven. It will come out steaming hot. Look at that steam escaping from there. Oh my gosh, it was piping hot. And this is what it looked like. Oh my gosh, I was so proud of myself. This looks delicious. And it tasted delicious too. Now, we used to go to Grandpa's all the time to take him lunch, and we stopped with all of the health issues going on in the world. Recently, we found ways to take precautions so that we could enjoy Sundays at Grandpa's, and so that we could check on him and his health every week, since he is 92 years old. So we take our precautions and we get to see him and make sure he's okay. So after Grandpa went in for a second serving, I told him about his food not having meat, and this was his reaction. It has lamb. So I did mutton, yeah. So I used beef and some sausage so that it has kind of like that kind of gamey flavor a little bit. I don't know, I tried. But of course, this isn't real meat.
It's not. Good.
He liked it, and so did the entire family. Grandpa's always amazed that he's eating things that don't have meat in them and that he likes them. So if he can like it, I hope that your family will like it as well. Buen provecho.